It looks better now.
Hey, folks, welcome to another installment of Flying with Will. I'm Will. This is the first interview iteration of this podcast. And today we welcome my good friend, Coach Andy. Coach, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, as you know, I am amazing, full of energy, full of inspiration, full of life. And Will, let me start from I was born in Zimbabwe. What a place to be born in. What a place in the 1960s. Can you believe it? I am so old.
Giving away your age a bit there.
But anyway, it was an era where we used to get dirty and we knew when to come home. When the sun would go down, we knew we had to be at home. We didn't need cell phones for mommy to get a hold of us or see us. Wow. And it was a good upbringing. We were sheltered. We were probably the privileged white kids at that time, We wouldn't say we were rich, but we had enough. We had a good
Andy,
education.
I would hazard to guess that you are making that statement based on what the current consensus is with regards to what it is to be privileged and white, right? We live in a world today that sees a white person very differently from when we were growing up.
True. But anyway, it's we got to say what it is. Sometimes we don't realize that we have privileges and we have had a good life. We always can see the worst in life. I could talk to you about South Africa at the moment. I'm from South Africa. I've been living here for 40 years. I can see the change in South Africa.
But you
But
say it's a
what about
good change or a bad change, Andy?
it depends what side of the coin you're on. If you're black, you probably say it's a good change because of the dignity they have received, that they are no more classed as second-class citizens, according to their mind. But there's a lot of problems. But it's not only South Africa. Worldwide, there's a lot of problems. Since COVID proved to us, worldwide, there is problems. There is a force to cause us to become poorer and to become worse. But anyway, let's not get into very political right? I like to be a person to sort of say, as my good friend Will, before I met him, I was scared of talking to people in wheelchairs. I felt very uncomfortable. Just to be with Will is like a breath of fresh air. You don't even notice that he is disabled. He has got such a positive mind. He's got such a positive outlook in life. And that to me speaks of life. What builds character is suffering. People
Andy,
will not.
you're going to be accused of being very medieval in your outlook there. Suffering
Yeah,
building character. Tell us a bit more about that, Andy. What led you to believe that?
well, if everything is so easy and hunky dory and you've got enough money, look at a lot of wealthy kids. What do they end up doing? They end up doing drugs, being washouts. They don't make the mark of daddy. And we think they've got it all together. They've got everything privileged. But one of the things they might say that they never had was the love of the father or the mother. Their parents are always jet-setting all over the world. They were brought up by nannies or caregivers. And now they want the attention of daddy and mommy, and now they've gone into drugs. They've gone rebellious. Well, It's always easy to see the other side of the coin and say everyone's got it together. Everyone has got life easy. Let me tell you, folks, you have life easy. What do I mean by that? Well, did you ever work 14 hours a day, every day? Did you work in the mines for 14 hours a day? Well, I have.
I
But
don't
I
know that
worked,
about you, Andy. Have you really worked in the mines?
yes, I worked in the mines for
Wow.
14 hours a day when I was a appy, when we were young in the 1980s. But that we got paid overtime. We got extra. But if you look in the 18th century or the 17th century, the people worked hard in the mills, 14 hours a day. They went to work at the age of 12 years old. Come on. Life has become easy. And we still complain that life is tough. Eh? You've got it all together. Man, you don't even need to go overseas to see somebody. You can just jump on the Zoom and talk to them, make friends worldwide. Man, we have got it easy. Forget about the Wright brothers, how they have made it. They made traveling so easy. But Zoom, come on, man. Zoom has made it even better. You look at you, you're in Cape Town, I am in Witbank, which is about 1,500, 1,700 Ks away.
And folks, I
100,
must just put this out there. We're not getting paid by Zoom for saying this. So, yeah, no,
yeah,
definitely. I actually wrote about this the other day, Andy, in terms of
yeah,
how we progressed, historically speaking, from back in the 10,000 odd years ago with hunter gatherings, and how, agriculture forced us to be urbanized, and how in the early 19th century, then with the Industrial Revolution, you had children being exploited, where they went from being, basically born to work on their parents' farm and help with labor. Now they go into the inner cities and they're working in sweatshops, and they basically are giving up their labor there. And how terrible the situation was for them. I mean, these kids used to die hand over fist. Terrible conditions, long hours. Youngsters, I mean, what, 8, 9 years old when they're starting. It was shocking, and to discover this stuff. And what's even more shocking, Andy, is that it happens today. You've got looms in India where kids are sitting at, making carpets 17 odd hours a day. And effectively, these kids are slaves. They really are. And you'd think, okay, so the 19th century left all that behind, but no, it's right here today, 2023. For me, you know, I would say don't get me started, but I think that ship's just sailed.
wow, well, it's very true what you say. Well, our audience is not that audience because that audiences are busy working hard. They are they don't have access to Zoom or internet because they are slaves. And to think slavery started in Africa in 1654 was the first slaves bought by the
Oh,
Portuguese.
Andy, I don't know where you got that from, my friend, but slavery has been with us since virtually day one, days of the pharaohs. I mean, if you read your Bible, and I know you're a fellow believer like I
I'm
am.
talking about Africa.
I mean,
I'm
come
talking about
on.
that.
No, but Andy, this is the problem that we're sitting with. Everybody equates slavery to the African slavery that's, so much in the headlines and the highlights of social media, where people are virtue signaling, saying that, people in America now have to be paid compensation for the sufferings of their ancestors. But I can tell you this: there's not a grouping on earth that has not been in bondage at some point in their history. And I find it bizarre. It's bonkers that we are now equating. Look, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm certainly not that guy. But let's just compare apples with apples. You can go to the markets of Marrakesh today. In fact, there are slave markets in modern day Libya now, as we sit here speaking, where you can go buy yourself another human being. And they don't even bat an eye. And I can tell you this much as well, Andy, you'd be surprised at the demographics you'll encounter there. It's
Can you imagine? Why would you want to buy a slave? Come on, well, what would you want to do with a slave?
Look,
You be disabled. I'm sure you would have a use for a slave.
look, I have an assistant, and I do pay that person a salary, and I believe that that's the right thing to do. I don't believe that any human being should ever be in bondage, in favor of another human being. I think that's a bit bizarre to even consider. But I'm living in a time which is very different from back in the day. Remember, if you were a Roman of any kind of social status, you would have a slave living in your house that would probably end up being the tutor to your children, probably end up being your most trusted confidant. These people were valued back in the day. We're not talking about how the North Americans treated them, come that particular era. But the origins, I mean, think about it. You have a racehorse, right? So you're going to buy a racehorse. You invested a lot of money into that particular animal, and you want it to perform to its top, to its best, be the best version of it that can be, right? Winning races, making a return on your investment. So back in the day, I mean, I'm talking Roman times and before, if you had a slave, you would treat them oftentimes better than some of your own family, because you know that you've spent a lot of money getting that person, and that person has to be a return on your investment, as it happens today, as it happened then. So I'm treating that slave like they are just about royalty. Look, I don't think that a slave is ever something which we should celebrate, because let's face it, I mean, in the modern day, we want to be free. And, well, that's unfortunately, they're free to do pretty much anything except be free. So, yeah. But yes,
Wow,
sorry,
it's
Andy, I was
another
very rude
subject
there.
that
I
we
kind of
can
jumped
go
right in,
on.
but yeah, no.
I want to just put a spanner to the works. What's the difference between a servant and a slave?
Well, I mean, the obvious answer to that from, my immediate knee jerk would be the same remuneration. But it all comes down to value, right? So, I mean, think about this. There was a time when people in Ireland were suffering from things like potato blights, and they couldn't feed their families, where they sold themselves into indentured servitude in North America. Those people were, for want of a better word, slaves, because they got there, now they had to pay back which they owed. And it often happened that those people never got to that point, because there was always some, fine print that was applied. But those people were like you and I, sitting here, which, you just say, well, I fell on hard times. So you ask me what's the difference between serving and being a slave. Well, it depends who we're referring to, because oftentimes that distinction is very minimal.
The difference is basically a servant is willing to do the work. A slave has no choice.
Yes, but as I mentioned with the example I gave you, Andy, these people willingly sold themselves into bondage.
Yeah, some of them did. Some of them were forced.
So in other words, for some people, that choice, taking away of the liberty, the freedom that they enjoy, is worth it to them based on the expected outcome.
Yeah. And today we if you look at it today, we are still slaves. We're slaves to money. We work for an hourly rate.
That's fair.
We work for an hourly rate. We are taught to work for an hourly rate. And we always say we never get paid enough, which is true.
Well, we're selling our time, right? We're selling our time, and time you cannot buy for any price.
So if you sell your time and you get to work, you only got 24 hours a day. How much would you make?
Mhm.
Will you have the lifestyle you want in that 24 hours? What is your value as a person? Are you making yourself
Yes.
more valuable in that time?
So
We're
don't you
always
think we
complaining.
commoditize ourselves too much then?
If you look at it, everyone's crying they want more money.
Mhm.
What are they providing to warrant that more money? Bill Gates, let's look at it. Bill Gates doesn't work for an hourly wage. When he's sleeping, he's getting paid, man.
Sure.
Microsoft is paying, we're selling them off.
Yeah.
Wow. If he can do it, Elon Musk, who is from South Africa, look at him. He's put in hours and hours. And he came out of an abusive home. His
Yeah.
father abused him.
Yeah.
And you can't say lack of education. The
Mm.
richest man in the world in 20th century, end of 19th century, Andrew Carnegie, he couldn't even read or write, but he became the richest man. He's look at people like they were called dummies and stupid. Edison,
Mhm.
Henry Ford, come
Mhm.
on. Henry
Well, look,
Ford had 3 failed businesses.
Andy,
He
you're
wasn't an
referring to
educated man.
revolutionary thinkers here. You're talking about people that revolutionized how we see the world. And yeah, absolutely. It's bonkers to think some of the humble beginnings that you find these people coming from. Einstein, I mean, was a patent clerk, right?
Yeah. What
Sitting in
about
a
Walt
dingy little
Disney?
office.
Let's look at Walt Disney bringing so much pleasure to the world. He was
Well,
told he couldn't
yeah.
even draw. Come on, man.
Oh, he had a dream, like a
That's
Martin
it.
Luther King, except when his day was done, he came up with Mickey Mouse,
Yeah.
and he thought that that would be his vehicle to making the world a better place. And that's what we're all trying to do, right? I mean, Coach Andy, right? You're trying to help people. You're trying to help people be their own best version in whatever aspect of their lives, right? So, tell us a bit about what you do.
Well, I'm more mindset, leadership from a leadership bias, and transformational. Leadership, I like to look at the highest form of leadership is learning to lead yourself, being disciplined, basically. Yeah. And with that being disciplined, it's not very easy because when we all have bad habits. If you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is you take your phone and you put a snooze. What's happening? Have you heard of the 5 second rule? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, jump up. The day is only beginning. No, we want to have that extra 15 minutes snooze. And that's just a bad habit. Let's go to the gym, man. I am overweight. You can't see much. I look slender, yeah. But
Well, we
to
all got to
lose
have a
weight,
shape, Andy.
eh?
We've all got to have
I've
a
got a
shape.
new shape. I've got the most beautiful body anyone can have.
Yeah, let's hear about it.
Eh? Why? I can take my shirt off and look in the mirror and say, Andy, I love you. You've got the most beautiful body in the world. I
Well,
don't
Andy,
have to
I
worry
always,
about. I don't have to worry about the blood pumping through my body.
but
I
isn't
don't
that
have
what
to
we
worry
should be
about
trying
the
to get?
brain cells.
Isn't that what we should be trying to get everyone to say?
Yeah,
It's like, look in the mirror, folks. You're fantastic, just the way you
you're
are.
amazing. You are
Ah,
magnificent. You in the image of God, man. Come on, guys.
well, you'd think
There's
that would
so
be
much to
the
be
end of that
thankful for.
discussion, right?
Hey, I'll
You'd,
tell you,
you'd think that would be
I
the
get
end of the discussion. You'd say that you're made in the image of the creator. That'd be the end of that discussion. It's like, hey, man, check it. I mean, you
some
think,
people will argue and say, have you seen the creator? How do you know you're made in the image of the creator?
you,
There's another story to that. A
well,
curveball.
Andy, I mean, I've mentioned this already. I know you're a believer, such as I am, and I'm sure you've got stories to tell. Look, A lot of people will say, why are you shoving what you believe right down my throat? I don't have to believe what you believe. Well, I agree with you, that person. I agree with the person that tells me that. I am saying this. What I believe does not require anybody to affirm that particular statement of faith. It's mine. It's a personal thing, right? And I would imagine it's much
No,
the same for you.
no, I don't agree with you there.
Okay.
Aha! Now I am really going to put the cat amongst the pigeons here.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't I agree with it? Well, the second commandment is love others as you love yourself.
Okay.
Let's put this into perspective. My children are in a house and there's fire. What am I going to do? I'm surely going to try and get them out of that house. Get them
Okay.
out of the fire. What's going to happen to them? They're going to be no more. Well, the Bible, as many people say, it's probably outdated. It's an version today. There is a heaven and a hell. That's the reality of the story. And if you don't believe that, you are not a Christian.
Well, Andy, that's exactly my point, right? There'll be people that will say, I don't believe that, and I'm not a Christian. So why should I care what you have to say? Look, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, so don't get me wrong at all. Definitely, on your side on this issue, but I will, concede that we live in a world where people have a vast array of convictions and faiths and feelings about a lot of things. Why do you think a podcast is something that people want to listen to? It's a bit like listening into someone's telephone conversation back when we were teenagers, right? I mean, it's a thrill a minute because you're gazing into that person's soul. They very often might say things that speak to the very essence of who they are. And at that point, we are, flies on the wall. We're going, yeah, tell me more. But Andy, you've got to compare the apples with the apples. Now, I want to say to you that yes, I agree with you 100%. I will also say this though, that like Voltaire did back in the day, while I might disagree with things you say, I'm going to defend your right to say them with my life. Which is to say, I'm respecting what you're ventilating. I'm respecting your point of view because you've gained that through a lot of experience, a lot of life that you've lived. You've lived more life than I have, right? By about a decade. So of course I'm gonna go, Andy, please, enlighten me because I believe based on that timeline that you have something to say.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have something to say. I really do.
Right. I'm gonna shut up now.
You don't need to. You don't need to be going into the lake of fire. You need to get out of that. Well, if you believe it doesn't exist, that's your choice. That is the most fantastic thing God has given us. We are born equal. What do I mean, born equal? Well, you have 24 hours in a day, each day. And we can't gain an hour more or lose an hour less. Each day it's ticking. And then we have the power of choice. God said to Joshua, choose you this day, either life or death. And if you are stupid, rather choose life. That's how simple it is. And that's what God is saying. I have put you on this earth to multiply, to take control. That is the mandate. To explode, to prosper. I'm not speaking of a prosperity gospel. No, I'm speaking what the Bible says, to prosper. Where the prosperity gospel is, people think they're not going to suffer. Well, God promises us, if you follow me, you are going to suffer. Because people are going to laugh at you. They're going to think you're mad. you're a fanatic. So what? Long as I can touch one person, and I believe this with very sincere heart, that God loves you and God wants you to have the best. Why did he put a hell or heaven? Well, he gave you the power of choice to choose heaven, which is supposed to be good, hell, which is everything is but we're living on hell in earth. Wow, that's your perspective. I think of the quote of Henry Ford. If you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're right. It depends on your perspective in life. So if you think there's no hell and you're living in hell, well, maybe that's why you are experiencing hell. Like I look at it, one of the number one problems in South Africa at the moment, and you won't know it unless you have looked into it's road rage. Forget about all the potholes we have to dodge, but the drivers are driving very lawless. They don't stop at stop streets, and they don't wait for the green robot. And I was listening last year to, I think it was Mary Morrissey or whatever. She had a podcast, and she said, "What you focus on is what you get to receive." So if you focus on the lawlessness of the people, it's going to get you upset. And if you focus on just being able to say, "I bless you, have a good day, have a thing," you'll find you won't even notice that you'll just adjust, you'll slow down, and then you don't get yourself pumped up. You don't get yourself angry and distorted and think about that. Live in the present. The past is the past. The future is the future. Today is the present. That is the gift you have. Live in the moment. Enjoy the moment. It's not the destination that's going to be there. It's the traveling to the destination. The excitement of going on holiday, the excitement, say, I'm going to Cape Town, the excitement of getting on the plane, the excitement of seeing my good friend Will in Cape Town, the excitement for him telling me, Andy, give me some beer. I have no arms. You are my arms. An excitement to hear him just crack a few jokes. Oh, man. Just to be in the presence of this man. I just met him in 2015. What a man. What an amazing. And his friend Gina as well. What an amazing woman. And we just had such fun. We just connected together and we just ripped each other apart and we had such fun. And we can discuss all these things. At the end of the day, you have your own thoughts. You have your own way of looking at life, your map of life. I can only share what I believe and think is right. It's not my job to convince you. If God believes, as I believe, the Holy Spirit will go and convince you that what I'm speaking about is truth. And it's nice when you taste, in the Bible says, taste and see that the Lord is good. I can't tell you, hey, a beer is nice. Come on. Any person that has their first beer, what an ugly drink. Whoa. But we love the effect it gives us.
Well, Andy, that sounds like a very good tagline for a food podcast based on all the most yummy things that you can get. But I digress. I will ask you, though, this, Andy, and I mean, I know that what you're saying, that you mean it sincerely. So we live now in a time when we see a generation of people that kind of seem to know the price of everything, but the value of nothing. There's entitlement. There is this virtue signaling where they're going on Facebook or Twitter or wherever and trying to convince the world that they're good people by whatever means they feel justified to do. And then of course you get these people that are, you know, the quote unquote woke. And again, I mean, I've spoken about these guys, you know, ad nauseum at this point. So I'm not going to go into that particular avenue unless you choose to pursue that rabbit hole. And if so, good luck to you. What I want to say to you, Andy, I want to ask you, what would you say? I mean, to someone listening to you today, to the two of us, frankly, going on and on about, you know, waxing lyrical about our faith and, you know, this conviction we have and the joy we feel and the privilege we experience and the revelation of it all. And I mean, we can go down that rabbit hole and do this all day. But consider then someone listening to this and that person then perhaps not being of your conviction. What is your measure of success? What is that which you point to and say, there's a life well lived? There's an example, there's a legacy, there is something to follow. How would you encapsulate that? How would you describe that?
Well, that's a curveball on its own. As I used the quote, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're both right, by Henry Ford. It's such a simple but profound quote. Is what you see in life is what you're going to get. The Bible speaks of it, what you sow, you will reap. And the most simplest of that, if you think you are entitled, yes, maybe you are entitled. That's thinking positive of yourself.
By what measure?
But what are you going to do about it once you've got it?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be a good steward of what you got, what you want. I want to be a businessman. Well, there's no shortcut to be a businessman. No shortcut to have the pleasures of it. Speak to any businessman that has made it. There's no shortcut to the experience that he has. He does not know the pitfalls until he walks the walk and does the talk. Yes, that's why we have coaches. That's why we have mentors that have gone through and ask us those difficult questions. What now? Have you got a business plan? What happens if your product you put out does not sell? It's not what there. I think of a guy in the early 80s or 70s, I'm not too sure, in apartheid South Africa. He was a black man. He was a salesman for perfume company. Oh, that just went out there. That's old age. Perfume company. And he went to his community. He was supposed to bring sales for this perfume company. And the people laughed at him and said, man, can't you see I've got curly hair? That stuff you are, it's for the white people. What's wrong with you, man? We have got different needs for this stuff. He went back and they eventually developed, and he started a company called Black Like Me. And he was quite successful. And this was done in a time where black Africans couldn't progress, but he made a success. So where does success come from? I think of the story of Barnes, the tramp, that said he was going to be Thomas Edison's partner. He had no money to go to Thomas Edison. He didn't have Google. He had to find where Thomas Edison was and where to go. When he stood in front of Thomas Edison, he says, I am someone Barnes. I've come to be your partner. Thomas Edison looked the guy up and down and looked at his clothing and just sort of chuckled to himself. But because of the man's sincerity and fact that he said he wanted to be a partner and he wasn't going to leave, Thomas Edison offered him a job. What they going to call it? Guys, a page boy or something that travels around with all the, I can't
An
remember.
apprentice of some sort.
Yeah, it's just say apprentice. He started on it. 3 years later, the opportunity came. And none of the salesmen wanted to sell this dictator machine. This guy came along and said, I will sell it. And he made it successful. And eventually he became Thomas Edison's partner. So, when did it start? When did his success start? It started when he got off his butt on that bench and made his journey. He was successful in his mind. It starts, you got to have a picture in the mind. Everything that is done, there's always been a picture in the mind. The fact that the chair you're sitting on was a picture in someone's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then plans were drawn, and then it was implemented. Look at the cars of today. Look at the cars of yesteryear. I'm telling you, you don't want to drive in those cars.
Oh, I
Even
don't
your
know
cheap.
about that, Andy. I might disagree with you on that one.
Wow, you're the only one to do it, not for comfort, for
No,
the
but come on. I
prestige.
mean, I'm a petrol head of note, so I'm appreciating every beautiful design car that's ever been made.
Yeah, but you know, the most average person, because they love comfort, they don't want to drive in
Fair
those
enough.
old
Well, look,
cars.
Andy, I can tell you a story. My cousin, I'm not going to out this man. He's currently living in Los Angeles in the United States.
Shame.
But back in the day, he attended a school in Gauteng, South Africa, much like many other kids his age. He went off then subsequently to go and study special effects, also locally initially. And the day that he qualified, he headed off to New York, and basically he went knocking on doors, saying to companies that he thought would be a good fit that he's pretty much prepared to work for food, because at that point, to get into the country, his father is an American citizen, but he had to get in before he was 21. Otherwise, he couldn't piggyback on his father's citizenship. But what he had to do, obviously, was then prove to these people that he wasn't going to be a burden. He was going to be someone who contributed. And he got employed. I mean, people saw value in what he offered. And, that led one thing to another, obviously. And today he's, doing a lot of ads, because apparently ads pay a whole lot better than movies. I mean, this is someone who worked on Pirates of the Caribbean, Star Trek, some notable stuff. He's done a whole bunch of ads for companies such as Apple. These guys, they want the best, right? So they want to get people that are going to put their brand out there in a way that appeals and sells. And yeah, it's a cutthroat industry, but he's made it in that industry. Now, why am I telling you this story? Well, success, like you say, comes with having skin in the game. It comes with sacrifice. And the only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary. So you've got to ask yourself, and I mean, this is something I say quite often, is how badly do you want it? And yes, you can, as you say, stay in bed for that extra 15 minutes, and it's all about your comfort and how it suits you to get up in the morning. Or you can go, you know what, I'm going to forego my own comfort right now, because the bigger picture says that if I put in the sacrifice and the hard yards now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when I've made it, then I can put my feet up. Then I can take a load off. Then I can, enjoy the rewards of that sacrifice. But this is not a message that we hear being trumpeted in the average township school in South Africa, for example. Yes, private schools, you probably get people that will say to the youngsters, to be a success, to realize your hopes and your dreams and your goals, you got to put in, the work. And at that point, what you got to get out is probably going to be somehow proportional to what you put in. But that is not a bog standard message. You see more and more often how kids are getting up in their teachers' faces over what? Being disruptive in a class, or over a cell phone, or a boyfriend, or a girlfriend, whatever, where that respect there is non-existent, where they look at that person and think, well, why must I listen to you? They don't understand the concept of benefiting from what the experiences are that person brings, what's come before that whole thing. They don't understand that because they've never been told to respect that, firstly, but also to make it about more than just themselves. And we have a big problem in South Africa right now about the whole thing about me, myself, and I. I demand, I insist, I want. We hear this every day. Youngsters telling our government, telling universities, telling teachers, it's about what I want. It's about me. And it's sad, really, because if you stop putting the me in that equation, you're going to start finding that you actually are learning a whole heck of a lot more. And you are going to be getting to where you want to be that much faster. Look, that's my 2 cents, and that's what I hold to. So what do you reckon?
Well, I look at it this way. It's good for them to know what they want. But are they prepared to put skin in the game?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah. It's easy to say, I want this, I want that. Yeah, it's easy to say, I've got a cell phone. I've got this. Daddy and mommy bought me this. And it's not just the cell phone. It must be iPhone or Samsung, the top of the range. This is teenagers of maybe 10, 12, 11, 12, 13 years old that are getting it. Okay, I'm not saying that this is, we are now talking to the top 10% of the world in that, because I mean, anyone less than that can't afford that. So there is a lot of injustices. There's a lot of things that we can say, and the world is getting tougher and it's getting harder. I would say we're going back in the 1930s. We're back in that cycle of the 1930s, where it was the Great Depression. We've had ups and downs, ups and downs. Our world is changing very fast and very quickly. Jobs have been taken over. And just to think, this chat AI is going to take a lot of jobs away on the internet, because you're going to have a artificial intelligence taking over. And it's why would you pay someone else to do it when the machine can do it in 5 minutes, where that person will take an hour, write you a script, write you a blog, and you just tweak it to your own little bit. Information is at the tips. But what is unique? It's your spin, your branding. You as you are. Nobody can imitate you, and you cannot imitate someone else. So just be yourself. Be the best you are.
Andy,
And that,
I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more. But how
it's
do you
growth
convey
period.
that message? How do you inspire someone to want to do that?
Look deep down in your heart. What do you really want? You don't want money.
I think there's a lot of people that might disagree with you on that one.
No. Really look at it. You say you want to be a millionaire.
Okay.
Why? Why do you want to be a millionaire?
Fair enough.
Why? What do you really want? You want that money because you want to feel good about yourself. You want to drive in a flashy car. You want everyone to look at you. You don't want the money. You want the prestige that it offers.
Okay. Okay.
Is it?
But earlier on you were saying, oh, but status is dead. I mean, you don't, status is not right, something that we're that's in the equation anymore. Is that not right?
I don't recall that, but maybe I gave that impression. But the thing is, it's what you want, and how do you want to get it?
Okay.
And stop looking at. Once you realize what you want, you know, look at the coin. I'm going to point at my wall there. You point at your wall there, and ask me what's the color of my wall. It's white. What's the color of your wall? Maybe blue. So what? I can't say you're wrong.
It's
That's my
aesthetic.
point of view. That's my point of view.
It's aesthetics. Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But
Guys,
Andy, I mean, you asked me what I would do. You said to me, well, what would I do if I made $1 million? As it happens, I've got a pretty good idea of what I would do, but it might surprise you. Right. So for me, I don't need a Ferrari. I really don't. And $1 million probably wouldn't even buy me one. So that's, neither here nor there. I'm looking at the big picture, right? Because from my experience and from what I've been taught, what I've learned along the way, security is not a one-time win where you get this windfall and all of a sudden you've got riches. Because I believe there's a big difference between wealth and, by extension, generational wealth and riches. I can't point to one lottery winner ever that I've heard of where the outcome of it all was positive. Because as you've pointed out, we look to our own vanity, right? So we want to be seen in the flashy car. We want to be seen living in the big house. We want the trophy wife. We want a certain lifestyle recognized by our peers and our colleagues in our communities, which is to say, check that guy out. He's made it, right? And if what you do with your windfall is to create that illusion, and it is an illusion, then you're going to find that within a certain amount of time, and it just takes time, you're going to find that it'll all be gone and you'll be back to where you started and you'll wonder, how did this happen? And ultimately, it's an attitude. It's an attitude of either being humble or, being braggadocious and, being that guy, which is to say, check me out. I've made it. I'm driving the new Ferrari. I've got the hot wife. I've got the 7-story house in Clifton. I've made it, baby. I'm the bomb. Right. So give me a decade. Because maybe you've got a lot of money, right? Maybe it's not just $1 million. Maybe it's like 10 million, 20 million, 40 million. Right. How long is a piece of string? Well, what I can say is this. Is your piece of string going to be the string that you use to pull others up alongside you? Or is it going to be the wick to your personal stick of dynamite? And again, that piece of string is just a certain length. It's finite. I've always believed if I took a brown paper bag today with R1 million in it, and I went down to my nearest informal settlement, and I looked around for the most hopeless, living in poverty person that I could see, that I could identify, sitting on the sidewalk, crying in his beer, wondering where his next meal's coming from, where he's going to find a job, all that stuff that apparently everybody wants. And I give him that brown paper bag and I say, here you go. God is smiling on you today. Be poor no more. Chances are pretty good that I'm going to go back in a year from now and find that same individual sitting on that same curb crying in another pint of beer because he's straight back to where he started. Yes, the money came and woohoo, party time, go off to the tavern, spoil your friends, buy a car, I don't know, buy a house even, I mean, whatever. Point is, if your attitude isn't forward looking and trying to look at the bigger picture, it's not going to be something that is going to be an asset to you for a very long time.
Very true. Very true.
You know,
I look
coaching,
at
Andy,
it.
is a responsibility. Eh? I mean, you could tell probably us more about it since that's your game. But I've always seen these high, lofty coaches types, the Tony Robbins of the world. One of your, you know, who is your favorite that you like to quote so often? John Maxwell. A number of those.
I didn't mention it. I
I
didn't
know, I
mention
know.
it.
I'm going
Yeah,
for it.
you
I'm going there.
didn't
I'm
bring him
digging
up.
down in that rabbit hole.
No, you
So,
opened the can
what
of
I'm
worms.
saying to you, Andy, is you got to come with the big guns there. You got to come with the good stuff because today what we were trying to do is inspire people to be better people, and we are laying out the goalposts as we see them, right? So it's very much uh, what would you call it? I'm not being objective here. I'm being very subjective. I'm going according to what I see and what I feel and what I believe. But that's not to say that that's the next person's story. But you, Andy, you're the coach. You're drawing your inspiration from titans and giants within an industry that tells the world that what we do makes the world better. So, floor is yours, buddy.
Okay,
Let's hear it.
okay, give me a chance. It is going to be epic. My thing is, I just want to comment on your brown packet. You've got a son of 5 years old, five or say just under 10 years old, just say. And he says, Daddy, I want a car. There's no ways in your mind are you going to buy that boy a car to drive. Why? Because he doesn't know what to do. He is physically not able to reach the pedals. He's not physically able to reach the steering wheel. I know in your case, in your state, you cannot drive a car. But you will be able to get a car if you've got enough money that's adapted to you. But the point I'm putting across is like that money. If that boy another 10 years later says, Daddy, I'm 17, I'd like a car. Well, you won't be shy to buy him a car. Why? Because physically and mentally he's able to make decisions that will be able to make him drive a car. And that's the same with money. It's the mindset. The mindset of receiving. Receiving. It's blessed to give than to receive. Like it is humbling when you're in struggle to receive something. I've received money from people with my faith. It is humbling, and sometimes you do need to receive. But to sit there and expect something without you paying. The law of compensation says you must provide a service which is of high quality that nobody else can do, and you will be given the most for it. I remember in my day, in the 80s, just early 20-year-old, everyone was talking about computer programming. If you're a programmer, you'll make a lot of money. Yes, true. Today, people are out of work. They've studied that. They can't get a job. It's just the times that have changed. If we look at it, you ask me the question, what would I leave you with? Number one, I'll go back to the second commandment. Love yourself as you love others. Let's focus on loving yourself. You cannot love others if you don't love yourself. You can't give something that you don't have. So you've got to appreciate you are. Be thankful for what you have. If you're having hard times, be thankful for them. Why? I was out of work 20 years ago. I had 4 kids to feed. I wasn't thankful at the time because it was tough. But what I learned, the wheel changes. It comes up. And what we call in South Africa, people, security guards, like looking after cars at the mall. We call them car guards. I was a car guard at that time. Today I drive a BMW. That's how my wheels turn. I was looking after them 20 years ago. I remember staying out at a club, a nightclub, for 10 hours from 7 to 5 in the morning for 12 Rand. That you can say is equivalent to $1. Okay,
Not
then
even.
20 years ago, that was able to buy a loaf of bread.
Not even.
But that time it was. So my first thing, believe in yourself, love yourself. Get to know what you want. Once you get to know what you want, now put down what you're prepared to do to get that. It's not going to come by sitting there and say, the mindset gurus and everyone else says this and that. Yes, it does work, but it takes work to get it. It's not going to say, I want to be a millionaire, and I'll look at it for a week. I'm going to be a millionaire. No, it's not going to work. The law of attraction. No. It's when you start to believe it and you start to live it and you start to move into that direction. A house is not built in a day.
No.
It takes planning. Plans are drawn up.
Yeah.
Money has been sought after. If you haven't got money, you look for a bond. Whatever the case, and it all takes a lot of steps to the final product.
Mm-hmm.
I think of one of them thing that we all talk about. McDonald's. My favorite story of McDonald's. We love to eat hamburgers. But McDonald's hamburger is not the best. But McDonald's, he worked long hours. He was under tremendous strain, if you look at it. Ray Krabs was the founder of McDonald's. And the McDonald brothers kept him. He couldn't do what he wanted. They had rules and regulations.
Wasn't he one of the
Eventually,
guys who wanted to put hot dogs on the menu?
I'm not sure of the whole story. I know the one story, he had powdered milkshake. And he put that in, and they said, no, they don't want, they want the real milk.
Okay.
Well, powdered milkshakes today is, not too bad. I remember in the army, we had as powdered milkshakes. What a delicious sight. You just put water in it and you shake it, and that came a milkshake. And that was like a meal in its own. So technologies have changed. But the point is, Ray Krabs, for his first 20 or 30 years, did not really make a cent. He made a living, but in his last 10, 15 years of his life, he skyrocketed. His money came in. How does he make his money? It's not selling hamburgers. It's the real estate that he has. He gets paid for the stand. That's where he makes his money, not the commissions. And it took him a whole 20 or 25 years to learn that. So it's
Andy,
no easy concept.
no, it's thinking outside the box. And look, I take my hat off to anyone who does that. As you might or might not know, I enjoy a good book, right? I enjoy a good read. But what I enjoy the most is learning from what I read.
Yeah.
So a few years ago, I'm talking quite a few years ago, I read a book by the name of a man called James Michener. Sadly, he's no longer with us. He wrote a book called Texas, which, as you might imagine, was all about Texas, its history, the big figures within its history. It's a bit of historical fiction. But what I do like about a historical fiction is that you actually do learn what the truth of it all was, but in an entertaining way. And one of the things that he came up with was the innovation of the Texas economy and how it became this powerhouse within the United States. Now, Texas, if you look at it, it's kind of split into kind of two parts, right? So you've got the West Texas, which is very dry and very arid and not much there. And then you've got the eastern areas where it's a little bit more green, heading off to Louisiana, where you've got like wetlands and all that sort of thing. But Texas is big, right? It's the second biggest state in America after Alaska. And South Africa, for example, fits within the boundaries of Texas a few times over. So it is a big place. What these guys did is they realized that there would come a day where, farming beef wouldn't be the big draw that it was back in, the 18th century. They, coming up with things like barbed wire, keeping those animals paddocked or whatever. I mean, when people got to Texas in the day, longhorn cattle used to roam wild like wild animals. All you had to do was just corral them, and lo and behold, now you're a beef farmer. But I'm digressing a little bit. Anyway, so to kind of keep the economy of Texas going, obviously the first thing that happened was that you had the discovery of oil there, where oil became a big part of that equation. But what they also did is that they incentivized things like highways and roads, where they realized that because Texas is so big, people are going to have to travel long distances to get to where they want to be. And then the question is asked, well, how can I get those people to spend money on those trips? They realized that they had the ability to build these highways and all that sort of thing, but they also realized that they had a big oil-driven economy at that point. And the logical next step was to go and build filling stations along those routes, right? So you would go to the oil company and say, well, you can put your pumps out front, and that's all good, and you do what you need to do, and you can sell your product, and happy days. What we want to do is we want to get developers on board, entrepreneurial type people, where we want to then basically develop that property then to be somewhere where people can stop for a meal, somewhere where you can go into a convenience store and buy whatever it is you want to buy, whether it be snacks for the road, or whether it be the morning paper or a cup of coffee to keep you awake when you're driving at night, whatever. And we'll sit together, we'll scratch our heads and trying to basically establish the needs of people on long distance trips. And we're going to basically then go, that's what we offer. And it was a roaring success. Those little isolated filling stops became cash cows. I mean, forgive the pun. Where before it was all cattle driven and cowboys, and we're doing the whole such and such trail this year and taking our cows off to somewhere called Abilene, which is 1,000,000 miles away, and hard work and many days, all that. Well, they modernized that economy, and today it's still very much like that. So what I will say is this: never assume anything. Always keep asking those questions, the whys, the hows, the whats. Because at the end of the day, that'll keep you motivated and just keep going. Get up that 15 minutes earlier. Go and put in that little bit of extra effort. And at that point, you will hit success without even knowing it. The money will come. It will. But don't let that be your primary motivation. Do what makes you happy. So get out of bed and do what makes you happy. Because at that point, you'll never work a day in your life. But then just keep at it. And the money will come.
You're talking of Richard Branson.
Oh, yeah.
He
No,
doesn't
sure. Another
work.
one of the
He's never
people I
worked.
admire. Yeah, I admire that man. I admire the attitude he has. And again, I come back to that word. It's attitude. Screw it, let's do it. I mean, the attitude is in the title, right? It's a can-do philosophy of life, not just business, but life. I think there's a lot of them out there that subscribe to that particular philosophy, that paradigm.
Okay. What I said, whatever you dream or whatever you want to do, it's going to be uphill. You're going to meet resistance. That's part of life. It builds character. And when it builds character, you can have all the skills in the book. You can learn it in the book. When you build character, it drops in the heart. And when it drops in the heart, that's where the motivation comes from. Take a person, young couple. You like this young girl or young boy. Hey, and he doesn't want anything to do with you. But you feel this is the one for you. You are not going to stop until you have won him over or won her over. Love makes you creative. So do something you love. It'll be uphill and it'll be worthwhile. When it's uphill, the resistance calls you to fly. And as it says, fly with Will, fly with him all day long. It's great to be with Will. It's not, what's it, Air Barbados? There was that song, I can't think, Coco Banana or something like that. I can't remember. The pilot goes on the Air Barbados. Come fly with us. Well, have a laugh. Believe in yourself. You know you can do it. It might take 20 or 30 years. Oh, sorry. No instant. Swear. A lot of people are claiming they made it successful on the internet. I wonder how much is true. There have been people that have made it successful. Jeff Bezos has made it successful. Amazon. But look at him. He's a character. He's full of laugh. That laughter of his is so infectious. He's just being himself. Mark Shuttleworth, also another one, probably the most powerful person in the world today. Facebook. He can
No,
monitor.
you're talking about Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg. Okay,
Yes.
not Shuttleworth. Shuttleworth also made it big. He went to the moon.
Well, he went to outer space.
Yeah, or outer space. But it's amazing. These are all success stories. You got to position yourself to these success stories. They positioned themselves and they hit a lot. I would have loved to be Mark Shuttleworth's servant. When he got his and he gave $1 million to him. But how, as Will said, how did it help him? It's changing the mindset that makes transformation and taking leadership and ownership of yourself. There is strategies. Understand yourself is one of the ways of obtaining greatness. Les Brown says, are you ready? Prepare for it. And when you're ready and the opportunity comes, you will not fail. So that's why you prepare. The 5 P's of life. Proper planning prevents poor performance. So before, you're not going to just build a house without a plan. So start planning your day. Plan every day and plan every night and see how your day comes. If you need help, just listen to us. Come and see us on different podcasts.
Well, Andy, I don't know if I'll be as arrogant as to say that we have all the answers, but I think
Nah,
this has been a good place to start. I think that
we
what you've contributed today definitely is food for thought. But Andy, we've been on now for just about an hour. I want to ask you then to tell folks what you're going to be busy with and doing, and how to get in touch if you guys feel that what Andy has to say might benefit you in your life and in your business. Then by all means, let's get in touch and let's make that happen. So Andy, let it go. Let's see. Let's hear it.
what my main passion is take the underdog and make them successful. Africa has 54 countries. Out of the 54, 23 of them are the poorest countries in the world. Out of 25, 23 of them. So this is my long-term dream, my mandate, I believe. It's take young, budding leaders and make them servant leaders with integrity to become politicians, become pastors, or leaders in their field, or businessmen with integrity and love and a servant heart. Make, as Donald Trump said, make America great again. We can't say make Africa great again. Let's make Africa great, a great economical power. We have 30% of the resources. We're the second largest continent in the world. We have a lot of problems. One of the problems is power. Zimbabwe is sitting with 1 or 2 hours of power a day. Man, if we complaining in South Africa, we short of maybe 4 hours a day. Well, these are problems. Well, let's be the solution. The richest man in the world came from Africa. I don't know if he's still the richest, Elon Musk. If we can use his money to invest, and if we can have stable relations with our politicians, we can build power stations and we can build things that meet the needs. Number two, another way is unemployment. Instead of being a slave working for money, become the boss. It takes a challenge. That is my mission, to inspire young budding leaders, women or men. If you would like to help, you can contact Andy. You can find me on Facebook, Andrew John Kendall. Simple as that. I'm sure we'll put a link where you can get hold of me. Just DM me on that, and I'll probably drop a WhatsApp number as well that you can get hold of me. Let's work together. Put the past behind us. We know these problems. Everyone's focusing on the problems. If you're playing darts and you focus on the side of the wall, you're going to hit the side of the wall. If you focus on the bullseye, you are surely going to hit the bullseye. Let's focus on the solutions. Let us be the solution. And let you be the solution of your life. There's many strategies, many ways. That is my pitch for the day. If you found this is helpful and you want more, contact us or listen to us. I'm sure this won't be the last time Will and I are having a chat. And I'm sure we will have more. And maybe you'll find us on Clubhouse one of these days. Who knows? The secret is out. Oh, shoot. Oh, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, and discreet as always. Yes, my friend. Well, folks, I hope that you've enjoyed your time with us today. As you know, I am Will, and saying for Andy and myself, wherever you find yourself in the world,
You are the best.
that too. But good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Be safe, be well. Bye-bye.